Because of William Shatner's background in Stratford and Shakespeare, we knew that Star Trek was going to take a chance at a Shakespearean episode at least once a season. Now, this third season episode, Taming of the Shrew with Evil Overtones, Elaan of Troyius. Now, this 13th episode of the third season was the Christmas week broadcast, December 2068, written and directed by John Meredith Lucas. In the episode, the Enterprise ferries a spoiled princess whose betrothal is hoped will bring peace to her star system at war. Now, Elaan of Troyius was written and directed again by Lucas, the only person in Star Trek production history ever to both write and direct a film Star Trek episode. Now, this was the 57th episode of the overall series, with Franz Wien as Elaan, the great Jay Robinson as Ambassador Petrie, Tony Young as Crichton, Lee Duncan as Evans, Victor Brandt as Watson, Cale Smith as the Klingon captain, and again, a great supporting cast all the way around. Now, why this one really stands out is the main character, William Shatner, is basically not at first attracted to her, but succumbs to her wiles in a very interesting scene in the episode. Now, the Federation Star Trek Enterprise arrives at the planet Elas to pick up Elaan, the Dolmen of Elas. Accompanying them is Ambassador Petrie of Troyius, a planet with which Elas has been at war. As Petrie explains, the Elasian Council of Nobles and the Troyes Tribunal have agreed to marry Elaan to the Troilan king to secure peace, lest the two planets destroy each other. Elaan is a most reluctant bride, cursing an arrangement that she considers a humiliation. Ambassador Petrie's mission is to instruct Elaan in the manners and customs of the Troyans. Not long after the Enterprise begins the return journey to Troyes at low impulse speed, basically because Elaan is a spoiled little rich girl, a Klingon warship is detected which paces the Enterprise and ignores all hails. To complicate matters further, Elaan stabs Petrie, who refuses to have any further dealings with the Dolmen and vows that his ruler will never marry her. The job of teaching her falls to Captain Kirk. Now, there are several scenes early in the episode which is complaining about her quarters, the fact that Kirk does not ask her permission to leave her or to remove himself from situations. Now, in sickbay, Nurse Chapel asks the ambassador why Elasian women are so prized in spite of their savagery. Petrie explains that when the tears of an Elasian female touch a man's skin, his heart is enslaved forever. Now, Elaan does not take kindly to Kirk's efforts to educate her and attempts to stab him. He overpowers her, disarms her, and insists that she will learn what she has been ordered to learn. Elaan locks herself in the bathroom and begins to cry, saying she is tired of being hated by everyone. Kirk tries to comfort her, and after wiping a tear from her cheek, finds himself besotted with Elaan. Now, in the scene, the way France Wynn plays it, did she set up Kirk, or did she really have real tears? Yet to be determined. Now, meanwhile, one of the ship's engineers is killed by Crichton, Elaan's chief bodyguard, who then tampers with the Enterprise warp engines and tries to contact the Klingon battlecruiser. He is captured but commits suicide before he can be interrogated. Kirk orders Chief Engineer Scott to check the ship's propulsion systems. Elaan reveals that Crichton was in love with her and had been influenced by the news of the arranged marriage, thus, trying to work with the Klingons. Now, the Klingon battlecruiser then begins what appears to be an attack. As Kirk orders the Enterprise to go to warp, Scott reports that a result of Crichton's sabotage, any attempt to do so will destroy the ship. As the Klingon passes by without firing, it becomes clear that they were hoping to destroy the Enterprise without an overt act of war. This plan has failed, and the Klingons attacked in earnest. Mr. Scott reports that Crichton damaged the lithium crystals in the antimatter reactor control system, making it impossible to go to warp or fire their weapons. Now, in sickbay, Ambassador Petrie again approaches Elaan and begs her to accept a necklace of Troyan royal jewels that was to be worn at her wedding as a symbol of hope for peace between their two worlds. She accepts the necklace and subsequently appears on the bridge wearing it with her wedding dress. Spock detects strange energy readings from some of the jewels, which Elaan describes as common stones, valued only as good luck charms. The stones are in fact the lithium crystals, which explains the Klingons' keen interest in the star system. Now, the crystals are taken to Scott Engineering, where he and Spock work to replace the damaged crystals as the battlecruiser moves in for the kill. Power is then restored to the Enterprise just before the Klingons' final attack. After suffering serious damage from the Enterprise's photon torpedoes, the Klingon ship is successfully driven off. Now, a much-changed Elaan is delivered safely to Troyius. Before she departs, she gives Kirk her dagger as a memento, explains she has learned that on Troyius do not wear such things. She and Kirk say their farewells in the transporter room, with a heartbroken Elaan crying as she's beamed down. Later, McCoy appears on the bridge to report he has found an antidote to Lazian tears, but it seems not to be needed at all. As Mr. Spock points out, the Enterprise infected the captain long before the Dolman did. Now, ironically, cut from the episode was a scene in the ship's recreation room where Kirk, McCoy, Uhura, and Spock meet to discuss how to calm Elaan. Uhura suggests using the sound of Spock's harp to calm her. The music is later heard piped into Elan's cabin. Now, the episode features the first appearance of the D7 class Klingon battlecruiser designed and built by Star Trek art director Walter M. Jeffries. The footage of the Klingon battlecruiser was reused in subsequent episodes of the third season. Now, ironically, France Nguyen is believed to be the first Vietnamese actor to appear in a lead role in American television. She had previously starred with Shatner on Broadway for 2 years in the title role of The World of Susie Wong. She will later guest star along with Shatner as husband and wife in the Kung Fu Season 3 episode, A Small Beheading. Now, this is also the last episode lit by cinematographer Gerald Finneman, who had been with the show since the first episode. This episode is also final appearance in the original series, as originally broadcast, of Eddie Paskey as Lieutenant Leslie. Now, the episode has the distinction of being the only episode of the series to have all 7 principal characters in the final shot of the Enterprise bridge: Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Scotty, Uhura, Sulu, and Chekhov, along with identified female ensign. The episode's title character pays tribute to Helena Troy from Homer's Iliad, and the plot borrows again from Shakespeare's comedy, The Taming of the Shrew. Now, Trek navigators Mark A. Alpin gave the episode 2 stars, saying it was a thinly veiled version of The Taming of the Shrew. The episode was largely carried on the shoulders of Shatner. The AV Club gave the episode a B, while Samuel Waters of Dauntless Media gave it a C-, calling it flat. Now, for me, it's not a flat episode. If anything, it's a very interesting Season 3 episode, and here's why. Because Nguyen and Shatner had worked together on Broadway before, they had kind of a shorthand. It would be interesting to see if, obviously, there was talk about a Star Trek sequel to bring back the character in What in the Movies, because obviously Kirk had a lot of women across the universe over the years. But I think it really works because the first interracial kiss on TV was between Shatner and Nichelle Nichols in that the famous mind control episode. But here, interracial relationship between a white man and a Vietnamese woman. Again, this was groundbreaking for television, so a very, very important part of TV history. But the fact is, if Shatner wasn't a Canadian, I don't think it would have went apart, because Canadians were kind of considered like they are now foreign. We're considering foreign people in the States, even though we speak and talk better than most Americans and look American, more than any American, but near here nor there. But William Shatner knows how to play Shakespeare, and the idea of this is Shatner tour de force. Not saying it's a bottle episode, but he takes most of the heavy lifting, and it's still open to whether she did the tears to manipulate him, or did the tears because she really wanted him to fall in love with her, because he was the only one to understand her, especially the knife and fork incident. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's our latest Star Trek podcast. If you like what we're doing here, give us a like, comment, subscribe, or share.